There's something deeply humbling about losing someone who once loved you endlessly, and when it happens not because of some grand betrayal, but because of your own thoughtlessness, it cuts deeper. My name is Olivia. I'm 26 years old, and this is the story of how I mocked the love of my life and how he walked away from me without hesitation. It started at the annual summer barbecue in our quaint little neighborhood of Millbrook. Every year, Mrs. Parson, the sweet elderly lady from down the street, would host the whole block in her flower-drenched backyard. Everyone showed up, families, couples, friends. It was a happy affair. And I was the life of the party, or so I thought. The sun had barely reached its peak when I found myself surrounded by my usual group of friends, Alexis, Tasha, and Claire. We were sipping wine coolers, laughing over silly stories, and exchanging playful gossip. It was all harmless, I convinced myself. Ethan, my husband, stood by the grill, flipping burgers like he always did. Dutiful, kind, steady. He wore that familiar smile that used to melt me when we first met back in college. But somewhere between life's routines and my own emotional immaturity, that smile started to feel predictable, and that's when I made the mistake. Oh my God, I chuckled, waving my drink. You won't believe what Ethan did last week. I casually mentioned I was craving sushi at that impossible-to-book place in the city. And guess what? The next day, the man shows up with a reservation, said he pulled a few strings with a client. My friends gasped in delight, but I wasn't done. And then, the moment we got there, I said I didn't want sushi anymore. I wanted Italian instead. And Ethan? He smiled, canceled the reservation, and took me to that tiny trattoria I love instead. No complaints. I swear, if I told him to bark like a dog, he'd ask, "What breed?" The group burst into laughter. Except suddenly, the laughter died. And that's when I felt it. I turned, and there he was, Ethan, standing a few steps behind me, a plate of burgers in one hand, the look on his face, cold, unreadable, but unmistakably hurt, froze my breath. "Can we talk?" he said quietly. I tried to laugh it off. "Ethan, I was just joking. Now, Olivia." He led me away from the gathering, behind the garden hedge. My heart beat faster, though I wasn't sure if it was from shame, fear, or both. He set the plate down and turned to me. "I'm done." "Done with what?" I asked, voice trembling. "Us. This. All of it." I blinked. "You're overreacting." "Come on, I was just joking." "No, Olivia," he said, voice hardening. "You've made a joke out of me for years. I bend over backwards, trying to make you happy, and you make me the punchline." My mouth opened, but no words came out. "I've put up with the little digs, the eye rolls, the stories you tell to get laughs, and I've always forgiven you. But today, I realized something. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you treating my love like it's some running gag." Tears stung my eyes. "Ethan, please. I didn't mean—" "You never mean it," he said, "but it still hurts." I reached for him, but he stepped back. "I'm leaving. When you get home, your things will be packed." And just like that, he walked away. That night, I returned to our quiet colonial home. The porch light was on. 3 suitcases sat beside the door. I rang the bell anyway, hoping, praying he'd open it, look at me, say he changed his mind. He didn't. The door stayed closed, and so I sat there, surrounded by my own clothes, my own choices, and sobbed beneath the porch light. The days that followed were a haze. My parents took me in, though their disappointment clung to every word. My friends, so lively and eager around me before, vanished like smoke. Alexis sent a few half-hearted messages, but they only reminded me of the version of myself I wanted to leave behind. And Ethan, nothing. Not a call, not a text, only silence. One night, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, the same one I'd had since high school, and saw a stranger. I used to think I was funny, charming, in control, but all I saw was someone who pushed away the only person who ever truly loved her. I began therapy. Dr. Simmons, a patient older woman, listened as I spilled every regret. "Why do you think you made jokes at Ethan's expense?" she asked gently. I I don't know. I guess it made me feel adored. Like I had this perfect husband who'd do anything for me, and it made me look important. She nodded. But at whose cost? The answer hung in the air. I knew Ethan's. 3 months passed. Then one evening, I bumped into Mrs. Parson at the grocery store. "Olivia, dear," she said softly, pulling me into a hug. "He still asks about you, you know." Ethan. My breath caught. "He changed his number," she said. "But he left this, just in case you ever wanted to reach out." She handed me a folded piece of paper. She handed me a folded piece of paper. That night, I stared at the digits. Should I call? Would it even be fair to him? I didn't call, but I texted. "Ethan, it's Olivia. I don't expect a reply. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything, for taking your kindness and turning it into comedy. You didn't deserve that. You were always the best part of us. I hope you're happy." I pressed send, then tossed the phone across the room, heart pounding like thunder. Hours passed. Then it buzzed. "Thank you for your message. I appreciate it. I hope you're well, too. Take care." Just that. Short, polite, but it was something. Months turned to seasons. I got a job, entry level, marketing firm downtown. Every paycheck felt like progress. Every meal I cooked alone, every morning I woke up without Ethan. It hurt, but it also healed. I volunteered at the animal shelter. I started journaling, meditating, learning what love really means. Not just romantic love, but love for self, for growth, for silence. 1 year after the barbecue, I saw him again. It was late autumn. I had just stepped out of the cafe near my office, coffee in one hand, files in the other, when I bumped into someone. "Sorry," I gasped, and looked up. It was him, Ethan, wearing a gray coat, his hair slightly longer, his eyes the same as ever. "Olivia," he said, surprise flickering behind his glasses. "Hi," I breathed. We just stared. Then he smiled. "That your usual?" he asked, nodding at my cup. "Yeah, vanilla latte, still." He chuckled softly. "Same." An awkward silence. Then he offered, "Want to sit? Catch up?" And we did. We talked for an hour about work, the shelter, my therapy, his new apartment, his gym obsession. We didn't talk about the past, not yet. But as we stood to leave, I gathered the courage. "Ethan," I said, heart racing, "I don't expect anything, but I'd like to be friends, if that's possible." He was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "I'd like that." We started slow. A message here, a shared article there. Weeks passed, then coffee again. Laughter returned, but softer now. Kinder. Eventually, he said something I never expected. "I see the work you've done, Olivia. I forgive you." Tears pooled in my eyes. That moment meant more than any "I love you" ever could. Because forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing peace and letting someone try again. I don't know what the future holds for Ethan and me. Maybe we'll never be more than two people who loved each other once and learned from their pain. Or maybe, just maybe, we're writing a new chapter, not the same story, but a better one. One written with respect, with gratitude, and with a love that no longer needs an audience to prove it exists. Closing line for YouTube voiceover. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from the softest betrayals, the things we didn't even realize were wrong. But if we're lucky, life gives us a chance to make them right.